Welcome to the Hope and Focus podcast, where hope has a voice. We highlight the journeys of those impacted by Leber congenital amaurosis and other inherited retinal diseases, and the work driving change. Thanks for being here.
Welcome, everyone, to the Hope and Focus podcast. I'm your host, Ben Shaberman, and I am excited to bring you our second of two guide dog episodes. And in our first episode, we learned all about puppy raising and training, and that was a fun episode. You should check it out if you haven't. And for this episode, we'll be learning all about what it's like to have a guide dog. Joining me are Eric Brinkman and Nick Priebe, and for the record, both of our guests have LCA. Eric is a software engineer living on the Upper East Side of New York City. He enjoys Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he runs in Central Park with the Achilles Foundation. That's an organization that helps people who are blind or with low vision walk and run. And his dog, Charlie, is his third guide dog. So, Eric, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So my other guest, Nick Priebe, is a recent graduate from Goucher College in Maryland, where he received his BA in 3 majors: peace studies, French, and sociology/anthropology with a concentration in social justice. That actually sounds like 5 majors to me, but I won't quibble. Since graduating, Nick has been on the hunt for a job in social services or a related field, and his dog is named Winsome, and she is Nick's first guide dog. So, Nick, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you with us.
Hello, it's good to be here. And if you hear that barking in the background, that is not my guide dog.
Okay, we can't hear him, so that's good. Okay. But it must be fun having more than one dog in your world. So
yes, the other dog barks a lot. Winsome, I've heard her bark once ever, and I'm not even sure that was her.
You know, I met Winsome at the recent dinner in the dark, and she is a very well-behaved sweetie.
Mm-hmm.
So, Eric, how long have you had Charlie? Tell us a little more about your experience with Charlie, what it's been like in your journey with him.
I've had Charlie for 3 years, pretty much almost exactly 3 years, as a matter of fact. I went into the December class at the Seeing Eye in 2022. So I believe Dog Day was December 1st. It was the day right after Thanksgiving. Because you go in and you spend about a day and a half with instructors before you get your dog. But he's been absolutely the best of the 3 dogs that I've had. And he's in terms of behavior and guiding. And I was a little nervous because my second dog did not work out, which is a chance you take. It's not anybody's fault, but it is a chance you take because it's like deciding. It's like sometimes dogs just may decide it's not the right career for them. Much like somebody who goes through school in a certain major maybe decides they don't in fact want to do that after all. So. But he's been wonderful. I've loved showing him around New York City, around my neighborhood. And I had just moved to New York City before I got him, about 4 months before. And I knew I was going to move. So the instructors at the school said, absolutely move first, which they would agree with. But it's been great to discover new places, bring him places where some of the places I frequent regularly, they know and love him. And he just wants to please and love you.
That's great. That's great. And Charlie seems to like the busy streets of New York City. He's cool with that?
Yes. Yes, he does well in a city, which is obviously important and isn't, every dog. I've heard people say that city sound dogs aren't necessarily a dime a dozen.
Right. Even people. Some people don't like the hustle and bustle of a place like New York City. I love it, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. I'm glad Charlie enjoys it. So, Nick, you got Winsome not that long ago. How long have you had Winsome?
I've had Winsome about 2.5 years now. I got her in June during a June program. I met her the day after her second birthday. So that was very special for me.
And we've already talked about how sweet and loving Winsome is. What kind of environment do you use Winsome in? Like where you're living now, what is that like? And does she handle that environment well?
She handles pretty much all environments well, which was something I actually put on my application because when I applied for her, I was a freshman in college. So I was moving back and forth, and I went to college out of state. So I was going back and forth between my family's home and college. So I was traveling a lot and would need a dog that was good traveling and good in different environments. And my hometown is a very, very tiny town, not even lots of sidewalks. Very much the opposite of a big city. And then I lived sort of next to the city when I was at college. And now I'm in the suburbs. We live in the suburbs right now. But we're like, where I do most of my work with her is like the sort of smaller city areas. Trying to think of the timeline. I think it was like a year after I got her. It was in fall. I did a semester abroad in France, in Strasbourg, which is more of a big city, a big European city, but still a city. And she was very, very good there too as well. So she's been very adaptable.
That's awesome. It's remarkable too that a dog in that role of guiding you can be so adaptable. And I'm curious for both of you, Eric and Nick, have you ever taken your dogs on airplanes or trains, Eric?
Oh, yes. He's been on a plane at least probably half a dozen times at this point. I was at the Blind Travel Summit in Austin last month. I was at the Disability Inn conference over the summer, and he does fine on the plane. Usually the airline staff loves him as well. But I haven't taken him overseas. I did not take my first dog, Chester, to Europe when I went there because I was going to see a couple of concerts. I was afraid that I would be leaving him alone too much. So I would like to try taking Charlie overseas.
Right.
At some point if things line up. I know that's, paperwork, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of money, I think. I'm not sure if it's different for shorter visits, but you have to pay to make sure the dog is all good with the different health departments in the countries, which was a lot of money for going to France.
Right.
Yeah.
So Nick, clearly Winsome has been on an airplane.
Yes, she has. And she travels very well. I can tell she doesn't like airplanes, and she doesn't like sitting still for 8 to 10 hours in general. But I can tell she really doesn't like airplanes. The one trip I went on, I think it was like the second or third flight I went on with her. I actually was sitting next to a veterinarian who said like, oh, she's a little stinky. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And she goes, no, it's actually like a hormonal thing that they get when they're like anxious. And I was like, oh no, but she's not usually stinky anymore.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that. I mean,
yeah,
animals obviously can have odors. That's a natural thing, but I didn't realize it can be because of fear or anxiety. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
And I don't smell it. I didn't smell it on the plane to or from France. So I think she's a little more used to it. I was actually very nervous because like a month after I got her in the summer, I was doing a family trip, and we were flying up to Chicago, I think, and then taking a train across the northern border, more or less, through the northern states. I was very nervous to get on the plane. It was only an hour plane trip, so it was a good starting one, but I was definitely more scared than her on that plane trip. I spent the whole time like looking down at her and constantly touching her to make sure she was okay. And she was just completely unbothered, taking a nap.
That's great. And that sort of leads me into asking you both about the training process, because obviously if you travel a lot, you want a dog who is comfortable doing that kind of thing, and they connect you with that kind of dog. But tell me about what the training process was like and how you felt going into it, because I presume we're going to have listeners who are thinking about getting a guide dog and maybe what their expectation can be or should be going into that process. So, Eric, start us off. Tell us what it was like, especially with your first guide dog. What was your mindset going in, and how long did it take, and that sort of thing?
Well, when I went in, my mindset was I was very excited but a little nervous because on the first time I had never had a guide dog before, and I wasn't sure if one would be right for me, and I struggled with that for a little while. But I was very excited when I first met that dog, Chester, that day. I remember that was 2012, so that was quite a long time ago at this point, 13 years ago, and that training was a 4-week class, which was nice because it was a little bit slower paced. And I don't think they do that anymore. The schools are all trying to shorten classes, which makes sense because it's hard to get 4 weeks off if you have a job. So I was really happy to meet other handlers and share experiences. I hadn't had much interaction with other blind people at that point. And that's since changed. But as a child and as a teenager, I was mainstream. So I knew maybe 2 blind people who I would speak to once in a while. So I would definitely recommend going to the school because there's 13 schools in the country. Most of them have you come in. There's 2 that only do home training. I would not do home training, but I live by myself. I understand everybody's needs are different. So the first day and a half to 2 days, you don't work your dog at all. They're just by your side like a pet. You have to navigate. You're only really taking the dog around the areas on the campus that you're familiar with. And then you do work him out en route, but that's instructor supervised. And then you start working him in little bits. First couple of days, you just want to be loving on him and sort of getting to know one another. Then you build up time. You start with a short route. You do that a couple of times with an instructor, and then you do it by yourself. And you do a little bit longer route. Same thing, repeat. And then after that, after both of those routes are done, you do independent stuff more. The class becomes more specifically geared toward your needs. If you live in a city, you're going to go on buses and trains and practice. If you live in a rural area, you might do more country routes. I think I only did one country route while I was there. So that's really, really great that they do that. It becomes your little sort of 2-person or 3-person bubble with your instructor, because there's usually 4 instructors to a class. So they try to put people together who will have similar needs. So it's exciting. It can be a little bit overwhelming at first, especially I think it gets less overwhelming with time. So you just need to give it time because as you know one another more, you start leaving your dog alone a little more, and you don't feel like you always need to be thinking about them every single second, if you're getting a drink or wanting to socialize in a lounge. But I love it. I mean, I think they also want you to move on with your life, because it would be easy to just be like, oh, I'm at a hotel seeing eye. This is like a vacation, but they want you to be, once you're ready, they want you to bring the dog into your environment. Just totally understandable, and start going places with them.
Certainly. And how long before you felt that you had a good partnership with, well, I guess your first dog, Chester, in terms of, feeling like you were on the same page when you were out and about and navigating? Did it take some time after you completed training to feel that way?
Yeah, it took maybe a year. And I was told that ahead of time. The first couple of weeks even is the most challenging part. The first couple of weeks after you bring him home, always. And I was a little bit like, oh my gosh, why did I do this? I get around perfectly fine with a cane. Why did I need to do this? But that went away as, you're able to trust your dog more and not worry every second. And it helps me also it helps me sometimes not be a perfectionist and just take it easy and roll with it sometimes, because I'm somebody who a lot of times wanted to be at work at this time. Everything had to be in its place, and that's not always going to happen, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's life. You set out to do something, you plan, and things go differently. What was your motivation to get that first guide dog and keep having guide dogs?
to see what it was like, to be honest, because I was a fine cane traveler. That's something I know some people don't like traveling with canes. I do like traveling with canes. So I wasn't sure I needed one, but I wanted to see what the fuss was about. And you're never going to know that until you have one. And it's
Right.
not the same as having a pet dog, of course. I mean, my family had always had, well, we had two dogs growing up, but it's of course not the same at all.
Sure. And Nick, what was your experience like? Was it somewhat similar to Eric's or a little different?
Well, we went to different guide dogs, or I suppose we went to the same guide dog school the first time, Guiding Eyes for the Blind, where I got my dog. So the structure of the training was very similar. I went for 12 days, I think, or 2 weeks, because it got shortened because of COVID, and then because of people can't really get off for work, like you said. So the structure was very much the same as in what we did. They introduced me to her first without telling me her name, because they weren't sure if she was like the correct match and pace and all of that. And then I did a walk with her, and it was a route she'd done before, but obviously I was a new person, so I think she was a little nervous. I've noticed a tick with her, sort of, where she'll walk much faster on new routes than she will normally. So the first time we walked together, I think she was nervous because she didn't know me. So she was walking really fast, and I was like, oh no, is she not going to be the right pace for me? Am I going to have to ask for another dog? But it wasn't so fast that I couldn't keep up. It was just oh, we're moving. She's got a place to go. And then she settled in afterwards. But those first few days I was very nervous because I knew I wanted a dog. I've never been a cane person, and I had been thinking about the possibility of a dog since I was 16. But I grew up in a very rural town, so I wouldn't really have been working a guide dog if I'd gotten one in high school. And then when I started college, I had a semester to settle in, and then I kind of just clicked, and I was like, yeah, I'd like a dog. I'd like a guide dog now. So I did the application and then got her a year later about.
Did it take a while to solidify your partnership? Eric said it took nearly a year to feel, I guess, really comfortable with his dog. Is that similar for you and Winsome? Or?
I think so. I think a little quicker probably. During training, it was the first few days of oh no, what am I doing? I don't know if I can do this. I don't even know if I can take care of a dog. And then I felt very comfortable with her for the rest of training. And then when we went home, it was a little bit starting over again because, her trainers weren't there. So the teachers were out of the room, and it was just me to tell her if she was in trouble or not. And it was whole new routes, of course. So, and then it took it took a couple months, I think, to get used to the idea that she sets the pace as well. Because I am also a little bit of a perfectionist and a little bit, I don't know, type A, I suppose. If I set out to go somewhere, I want to go there. I don't want to take a long time walking there. And when she settled into routes, she'd walk slower. And I was like, oh, what are you doing? I want to go there, not walk there. It took me a little bit to just accept that she sets the pace. And then also train her a little bit to budge up when she was going really slow.
Right. And for both of you, do the guide dog schools have a hotline? So a month or two after you've taken your dog home and something's concerning or you have a question, is there a number you can call or someone you can contact for help?
Yes. And I've been to two different schools. They both have a hotline that you can call. And with Chester, I was spoiled because I lived in the same town as an instructor. So he could see me at 8 at night, which he did once. And that was one reason why I chose Guiding Eyes. But yeah, they have a hotline you can call. You'll usually get a call back within one business day. And they recommended with Chester, I automatically got a visit after a few weeks. With Charlie, they recommended you just call for a visit after a month, which I would agree with, just so that they can watch the dog working and help you with they help me pattern some stuff with him. But I think that's pretty standard that you get some follow up with the instructor, and because you're going to have issues and the dog may test you because, as Nick said, there's no adult in the room anymore. So yeah, the schools both, and I believe they all have some sort of hotline. They all do have a phone number you can call. With Seeing Eye, you call and ask to speak to a training manager, And then with Guiding Eyes, it was just a hotline you call and leave a message, but I always got to call back quickly.
That's great. That's great. Nick, did you ever use that hotline service?
Oh, yeah. I called it when she was moving too slow because I thought something was wrong with her. I thought the pavement might be too hot for her paws or something. So I called to tell them that and ask if something was wrong, which it wasn't. I got the whole, a little email packet sort of from Guiding Eyes with paperwork, but also one document that had a bunch of contact information for the vet and then just for graduate questions and stuff. And one of her trainers gave me her phone number so that I could contact them. So that was very nice as well.
That's great. That's great. So I'm curious how or what the biggest impact having a guide dog has had on your life, your either daily activities or how you interact with people. What's the biggest change that dog has made for you?
It's a couple changes, sort of all falling under the same thing for me. I feel more confident and more independent. And then also I go out a lot more, or maybe not a lot, but I go out more for sure, especially on my own, because I didn't like the cane very much. I just never really liked using it, but it worked functionally and I could use it. But with the dog, there's a much more, obviously she's a living creature. So there's sort of more of a trust bond there that really helps me personally feel more confident.
That's great. And how does having Winsome change your social interactions? Like if you go to a dinner or a party or you're just hanging out with friends?
Well, usually she makes it a lot easier because I have difficulty socializing. Sometimes it's just because I'm a little awkward, and sometimes it's because I'm blind and I can't tell who is where or if someone is actually talking to me or not. But she's a very friendly little girl. She loves people and they love her in return. So people will come up, they'll say hello. They'll be like, "Oh, your dog's so beautiful." And I'm like, "Oh, she knows." And that can be good for me socializing, especially when we're just staying in one place and not trying to move around much. But it can also be a little bit of a problem when I do need her to focus up and work, because she's making eyes at people and they're making eyes at her, and I can tell she's not paying attention to me. And I have trouble sometimes telling people "Hey, please don't acknowledge her," which is something I struggle with other service dogs. I'm like, "Oh, being on the other end sucks. I know I shouldn't be ogling this beautiful puppy, but it's so beautiful and cute." But yeah, she'll get distracted very quickly if she knows someone wants to give her attention, because she wants that attention. And that can be a problem if we're trying to work.
I understand that scenario because when I first met Winsome and I saw you at the dinner in the dark, you just can't help but be drawn to this cute dog. And I know, having worked in this community for a while, you shouldn't socialize with the dog, but you can't help but look at them as they give you this cute look and you're making eye contact. She definitely has this hypnotic power. I've witnessed this firsthand, and it's hard to look away. But
oh yeah,
it's good to know. How about you, Eric? You've mentioned that Charlie is, what did you call him? A love bucket?
I call him Charlie. I call him Charlie Bucket just as a reference.
Oh, that's right.
Willy Wonka,
that's right.
Kid. He's a mush. I think that was the word I used. Yeah, he loves everybody, and I think that's fairly typical of a lab. But I also enjoy walking a lot more, and I don't really take pleasure walks when I'm on my own with a cane, but I do take pleasure walks with the dog, and if not always faster, I move more fluidly. So, and it's just I can enjoy the walk. Absolutely worth having to go out when the weather's not so great. I also think he is a nice social lubricant for pretty much the reasons that Nick described. I also, if I go to a restaurant alone or a coffee house alone, I get more hellos, which usually is a good thing. Initially, when I came home, I was very, I would say, please don't interact with him while he's in harness. But I received feedback that, Eric, you're going to drive people away. You sound almost angry. You've got to calm down. So I moved, toward just, tried to just say, hey, I understand he's a lovely, dog. I'm just going to ask that you don't interact with him too much while he's in harness. Thanks. And now I generally, since he's settled and we have a good working relationship, if he's sitting down, or especially if he's laying down, if somebody asks and we're in a public setting, I usually will say, yeah, you can give him a quick pet. But I wouldn't do that in the first 6 months or to a year until you have a really solid partnership. And I won't do it in the subway. There's certain areas I won't do that. But generally, because I find most people are well-intended, especially if they ask. It's really half the battle is asking for permission before you interact with them.
That makes total sense. And yeah, when you're in a subway, especially a city like New York, you don't know who's coming up to you, especially if you can't see them. That makes total sense. Eric, is there a particular moment that you want to tell us about where maybe Charlie did something that was really important, impactful, and like helping you, I don't know, cross a street or something? Or is there kind of a funny moment that's particularly memorable for you?
There's a funny moment with Chester, which I'll never forget. I, at that point, was living in the suburbs, and I would take a bus home from work, and it would let me out right across from my apartment. And there was a firehouse right there, and those guys were funny and cool. They would read my mail to me. I miss them. But one day I was anxious to get home, and I just wanted to move. So I got off the bus and moved towards where the corner is. But I noticed Chester wasn't moving. I was like, come on, let's go. And it turned out Verizon or one of those companies had dug up the street. And it was early in my partnership. I started to walk just without, and I went splat into the ditch. I did not bring him down with me, but, I did fall. And the firemen were like, one of them was like, that dog's going straight to doggy heaven for dealing with you. And if he doesn't want to go in the direction that I want him to go, there's usually a reason for it. And it just taught me to pay attention. I don't know what's pretty funny. I think there's still an article in Patch mentioned, like in one of the police feed, man falls in work ditch. Luckily, it did not say blind man with guide dog falls in work ditch. That I would have not been happy with. But yeah, and the other day with Charlie, I was going on a route I normally take, and there was no crosswalk on one side of the street, and he wouldn't go to the right, even though I wanted to go to the right. And I ended up just asking somebody because I was a little bit surprised, but they said, no, he won't go right because there's no crosswalk there. So I had to just go back to the other side of the street and then cross back again, which they're always doing construction in New York. That's one thing I've learned since moving here. It's just the sidewalks and areas change. Regular routes sometimes are going to be blocked off, or part of it's going to be different, all the time, because there's always something going on.
Certainly. And in New York, people don't follow the traffic laws and, the crosswalk signals, and they're going through lights. That really has to be challenging.
Yeah. So I have heard people say that the city dogs don't tend to work as long because sometimes they burn out with stress. This is the first time I've had a dog living in the city. When I had Chester, I lived in the suburbs, and I would come into the city sometimes, but wasn't there every day. So I'm hoping this will be, I've had him for 3 years. I hope to have him for, 4 or 5 more years at least.
Right. But it sounds like he's doing well despite the chaos of the big city.
Oh, absolutely.
That's remarkable. And Nick, how about you? Is there a memorable moment for you with Winsome?
There's not really anything like super dramatic, but there is like a moment that showed really well that that people distracting her, that she can very much work through that, even though sometimes I think she loves other people more than me and would rather be running around with them than working. I went to Spain with my aunt at the start of this summer, and we were in, I think it was Madrid or Barcelona, but we were coming up from the subway system there, like a big flight of stairs, lots of people going up, lots going down, and we were going up, and I was sort of on in the middle of the stairs. We were walking up the middle of the stairs, so the downward traffic was right next to us. And I have some residual vision, and I just saw a person reach their hand down and pet her as they were going down, and I was really, on the stairs? Because of all the places I don't want her distracted, it's on stairs. She might have looked at him, I couldn't tell, but she didn't pause. She just kept on going.
That's great. That's great. Both of those stories and reflections are a real testament to how wonderful guide dogs are. Huh? They'll save you, huh? To close out, I wanted to talk about, or I wanted you to talk about what it's like to have this canine companion in your life. Obviously, the main reason you got the guide dogs is to help you navigate the world. But is there kind of a bonus to just have this loving animal in your life? You know, when you come home at the end of the day and have this loving dog to snuggle with, Eric?
Yes, absolutely. Especially when the weather's cold on days like today, it's nice to have a warm, furry creature who just loves you and doesn't talk back, doesn't need a whole lot besides being fed and given water and given a chance to relieve. I mean, he comes home with me 99% of the time because he goes most places. So I'm not coming home to him, but he's obviously a different person when he comes home because he's out of the harness. At that point, he's just a dog. He's not a serious dog.
And if you're having a more challenging day, do you think having Charlie as a companion can kind of boost your mood?
Yes, and help me settle down. I just okay, give him a few pets. Okay, this is what's going on. We'll get through this. And just sometimes if I'm not sure how to solve a problem at work, I work as a software engineer. So it's programming, which is just problem solving. But if I'm stuck, I'll just, he sits by my desk, lays by my desk. He's got a bed. So I'll just sometimes sit, lay down there with him and, cuddle with him for a minute and give him some pets and just, I find that a lot of times I solve problems. I solve problems while I'm doing other things, whether it's petting the dog or washing the dishes. Usually it's best to maybe take your head off of something for a little while and take it elsewhere.
Certainly. I can relate to that. I don't have a dog, but it is good to back away sometimes when you're stuck, but it's nice to have a dog like Charlie that you can snuggle with or pet or whatever. And Nick, for you, is Winsome a great emotional boost in your life?
Oh yeah, it's very much the same. I mean, sometimes I'll have days that I'm so low energy or just sad, not feeling good that I wouldn't have gone outside. Probably wouldn't have left the room much if it weren't for her. Because at the very least, I need to go out with her for a couple minutes to let her do her business. And then she melts my heart. She is a perfect little bean. Even on days where we were doing a difficult route and I might be frustrated at her or just frustrated in general. I know she's usually she's not the one in the wrong. It's just a harder route. And then I'm able to get over it, mostly thanks to her. She's got the softest ears. They're their own form of therapy, is petting them. And then even if I've had a difficult day, once I take off her harness and we're home, she's got the zoomies. She's doing little roly-polies on the carpets, and it very much brightens my day.
That's great. That's great. You both have such wonderful dogs. And I want to thank you both, Nick and Eric, for sharing your experiences with your guide dogs and what that journey is like in getting to know them and navigating the world. And I'm sure what you had to say will be very informative for people, not only who are thinking about guide dogs, but people who have guide dogs and may have wondered what other people's experiences are like. So thank you for sharing your stories. It's been great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, thank you both. And thanks, listeners, for joining the Hope and Focus podcast. It's always great to have you, and we look forward to having you back for the next episode.
Whether you live with vision loss or love someone who does, this space is for you. To learn more about Hope and Focus and join us in advancing treatments for LCA, visit hopeandfocus.org and connect with us on social media. at Hope and Focus 1. Together, we're bringing hope into focus.